You wake up, and before you even open your eyes, the weight is already there. It sits on your chest, heavy and silent. It's not a person, it's not an object. It's 1,000 unspoken expectations, all whispering, "You should be better." You don't even know when it began. Maybe it was the first time someone looked disappointed in you. Maybe it was the first time you compared yourself to someone else. Or maybe it was the first time you believed the lie that your worth was something you had to prove. You care deeply, too deeply, about what others think, about how things should be, about where your life is heading. You care about every mistake, every opinion, every invisible rule you think you're breaking. And it's exhausting. You tell yourself that caring is good, that it means you're human, that it means you have a heart. But at some point, caring stops being beautiful. It becomes a disease. You start overthinking everything, every word you said, every silence that followed, every reaction that didn't go the way you hoped. You start replaying moments, searching for where you went wrong, even when nothing was wrong at all. You become addicted to worrying, as if thinking about the worst could somehow prevent it. But the world doesn't care that you care. It moves on, it forgets. And you stay behind, carrying 1,000 thoughts that no one else even remembers. People say, don't take things too seriously. But how do you not when your entire sense of self is built on how things turn out? How do you not when every small mistake feels like the end of something bigger? How do you stop caring when caring is all you've ever done? The truth is, you were never meant to hold this much. Your mind wasn't designed to analyze every word, every expression, every heartbeat of your existence. But you do it anyway, because you think if you can just understand everything, you'll finally feel safe. Spoiler, you won't. You keep giving meaning to everything. A text, a silence, a look, a pause. You keep assigning value to things that were never meant to matter. You care about how you're perceived, how you're remembered, how you compare, as if the universe is watching, grading, judging. But the universe isn't watching. The universe doesn't care. And that's the beginning of the truth you've been running from. Look around. Billions of people live and die every century. Names forgotten, stories erased, even the brightest stars burn out, and the sky never apologizes. Everything you care about, your pain, your dreams, your image, they're all dust, waiting for the wind to remember them for a second longer. That's all. And yet, you care. You hold on as if the world would collapse without your anxiety holding it together. You overthink as if there's a scoreboard keeping track of how right you live your life. But there isn't. There never was. Maybe that's the cruelty of being human. We feel too much for a world that feels nothing back. Every night you lie awake trying to make sense of the noise inside your head. You tell yourself that maybe tomorrow will be better, that maybe all this worrying will somehow mean something one day. But it won't. It's all just motion, thoughts chasing thoughts, meaning chasing meaning, in circles that never end. Because here's the truth you don't want to hear. Caring too much doesn't make you noble. It makes you fragile. The more you care, the easier it is for the world to break you. And the world loves to break people like you. You try to fix everything, to make everyone happy, to keep control. But control is just another illusion. You never had it, you never will. Life has always been chaos dressed in order, and we are fools who keep trying to tame it. One day you'll wake up and realize how much of your life you've wasted thinking, overthinking, worrying, analyzing, caring. You'll see how much time you've spent trying to be enough for people who were never even looking at you. And in that moment, something inside you will crack. Not loudly, quietly, like glass breaking under the weight of dust. You'll whisper to yourself, maybe without even realizing, none of this matters. And you'll be right, it doesn't. Not your failures, not your fears, not your image. The world doesn't bend or break because of you. The universe doesn't adjust itself for your pain. You are a momentary thought in the mind of eternity, here, then gone, like a breath you didn't notice leaving. But that realization that nothing matters doesn't come easy. At first it hurts. It feels like the ground has been ripped away. You panic, you resist, you want meaning back, because meaning, even when painful, gives you something to hold on to. But once the fear fades, something strange happens. You start to feel light. You stop running towards things that were never real. You stop holding on to what was never yours to keep. You stop caring so much about the noise because you realize it was never about you to begin with. And for the first time, you breathe. Not because things are better, but because they finally stopped pretending to be. That's when the darkness starts to make sense. That's when you start to understand. The less you care, the freer you become. But freedom has a price. And when you stop caring, the world starts to fade, slowly at first, like an old photograph left in the sun, until colors no longer matter and the weight of everything you once considered important collapses into a quiet, mocking void. You walk through streets full of people yelling at their phones, chasing notifications as if they were messages from God himself. And you can't help but grin bitterly at the cosmic joke. Billions of humans sprinting towards nothing, waving their arms at an audience that doesn't exist, applauding themselves for playing the game they never understood. You try to reattach meaning to things, love, success, morality, happiness, but they slip through your fingers like soap in a shower, leaving only the fleeting warmth of disappointment. You laugh sometimes, not out of joy, but because life itself has a dark sense of humor. The person screaming at traffic is just a stressed-out carbon molecule. Yet here we are, mortals, pretending our minor inconveniences matter in a universe that can erase a continent with a shrug. You see people around you building entire lives on invisible scaffolding, pretending the roof won't cave in. And you smile grimly because the scaffolding is made of promises the universe will never keep, and the roof is optional at best. You notice how humans treat suffering like currency, trading pain for purpose, grief for meaning, and you can't help but chuckle at the absurdity. Babies die, tyrants thrive, monuments crumble, and still we search for moral receipts, as if existence would ever settle the score. You start asking questions no one wants to hear, questions that make the air uncomfortable. Why do we need meaning? Why do we invent gods, careers, rules, and relationships to convince ourselves that we exist? Why do we scream, "I am," when the universe couldn't care less if we whispered, "I was," 100,000 years later? Every structure you believed in, love, family, work, dreams, turns out to be a sticky note on the fridge of eternity, clinging desperately while the cosmic wind laughs in your face. Ambition becomes a circus act, morality a comedy sketch, and every life lesson a punchline whispered by a universe too polite to correct us. You see humans treating life like a script, rehearsing lines they never wrote, performing roles they never auditioned for, and you laugh quietly, bitterly, because the improv is endless and the audience is already asleep. Death stops being terrifying when you realize it is the only thing in life that actually keeps its word. And even then it has a wicked sense of humor. The stars will explode, empires will vanish, yet people still cry over who left them on red. You begin to exist in a strange suspension, neither striving nor fearing, simply moving through a world that has no plan, no bias, no expectation, and no malice. And the freedom in that suspension is intoxicating. You laugh at heartbreaks that once shattered you, mistakes that once haunted you, ambitions that once defined you. Because none of it matters. The punchline has already been delivered, the script has vanished, and the curtain has been lowered, but no one told the actors. You stop asking questions to soothe your anxiety and start asking them because they're amusing. Why do we hope? Why do we fear? Why do we care? The answers are always the same: randomness, absurdity, indifference. And somehow that's enough to keep breathing. You no longer need the applause of others, the validation of society, or even your own approval. You exist because you can, and that in itself is miraculous in the most mundane way possible. You notice beauty in decay, not because you've romanticized it, but because it's honest. A crumbling building, a dying leaf, a relationship that imploded like a cheap tent in a storm, all equally valid monuments to existence. You laugh at the futility. The person who chased a dream for decades only to realize the universe had no interest in granting it. The couple who argued over minor betrayals while entire cities burned. The man obsessed with legacy while the stars already forgot him. You laugh because there is nothing left to do but laugh. Morality becomes relative. Right and wrong lose their edges. What is sin to one is virtue to another, and the universe doesn't even notice the difference. Time mocks you quietly. Each wrinkle, each failed plan, each heartbreak, a signature from an indifferent cosmos, an autograph from reality itself. And yet humans continue to pretend their schedules are urgent and their problems monumental. Hope lingers like a cockroach after the lights go out. You stomp it down, yet it scurries back, whispering maybe, even though maybe is a word the void does not recognize. You realize that your suffering, your striving, your caring was never proof of importance. It was proof of engagement with a world that doesn't care. You are a character in a narrative written by chaos, and the only audience is an eternity that has already moved on. Even your personal victories feel like minor skirmishes in a war that never mattered. Your failures, equally, are inconsequential tragedies that amuse the universe more than they sting. And that amusement, subtle, dark, relentless, makes you laugh quietly. Because if the cosmos is laughing, why not join in? You stop seeking reasons and start collecting experiences, not because they hold significance, but because living with eyes open at the absurdity is a kind of victory. You notice the humans around you clinging desperately to stories of success, of morality, of love, of meaning. All of it evaporates when you look closer. They argue over politics, religion, ethics, trivial matters, as if the stars themselves were keeping score. And you can't help but smirk at the performative dance of billions, unaware that the music stopped centuries ago. You find solace in realizing the futility of effort. You can work, love, suffer, hope, fail, and all of it will still vanish without trace. And yet in the vanishing, there is an odd freedom, the kind of freedom that makes the absurdity feel like a joke shared with only yourself. You stare into mirrors and see faces carved by struggle, disappointment, and hope betrayed. You whisper to yourself, all this effort just to rot gracefully. And you grin because it is painfully true. Ambition is a comedy, love is a circus, morality a theater, and time the cruelest of comedians. Every act performed, every tear shed, every sleepless night is a scene in a play written by randomness. And the universe will not buy tickets, will not applaud, will not remember the actors. You exist in the absurd middle, aware of the joke, unable to escape it, yet strangely content. Chaos continues to unfold, people continue their desperate routines, and you watch, neither detached nor superior, merely awake. You begin to understand that life's value is not in its meaning, but in the witnessing, the seeing, the quiet acknowledgement that you are here, now, in the absurd theater of existence.
And in that quiet acknowledgement, bitter laughter escapes. Laughter at the futility, the fragility, the impermanence, the cosmic prank that is being alive. You laugh at heartbreaks, betrayals, failures, and fleeting triumphs, all equally meaningless, all equally human. And then you realize, finally, the truth. Nothing matters. Everything you thought was important, everything you tried to hold on to, every dream, every plan, every hope, gone. And yet here you are, breathing, alive, watching the absurdity unfold. And somehow that is enough. Enough to smile, enough to exist, enough to join the joke willingly, knowingly, and laugh quietly at the universe's indifferent, perfectly timed punchline. Eventually you stop fighting it, the emptiness, the silence, the absurdity that has been quietly gnawing at the edges of your consciousness, and it settles around you like smoke that smells faintly of burnt coffee, old regrets, and the faint tang of forgotten dreams. You wake up one morning, or perhaps it is night, and instead of asking why, you just shrug and think, well, why not? There's a strange liberation in realizing that if nothing truly matters, then neither does failure, judgment, love, ambition, or even the desperate act of hoping anyone will remember you beyond the blink of existence. The same universe that did not care when you cried will not care when you triumph. And that honesty, brutal as it is, tastes strangely sweet in its cruelty. You stop performing, stop pretending, stop building castles in sand only to weep when the tide comes. You let the tide do its work, and for once the sand feels lighter in your hands. Life goes on around you, people screaming, clinging, clawing at invisible ladders, and you smirk quietly. It is the kind of joke both hilarious and horrifying, the kind that makes your chest ache with recognition. Heartbreak becomes comic, the betrayal, the lies, the lonely nights, all absurd sketches in a play written by chaos, performed by actors who believe themselves central to a story that never cared to exist. Mistakes are punchlines, failures are ironic footnotes, ambitions are stage props, and you laugh quietly, bitterly at the absurdity of caring so much, at the futility of trying to matter, at the time you spent pleading with a universe that never responded. Love loses its gravity, the passions, promises, and dramatic declarations, none of it registers beyond the blink of stars. People cry over relationships as if galaxies might notice, and you laugh in the dark, knowing the universe doesn't even know your name. You find beauty in decay and impermanence, not because it comforts you, but because it is honest. A dying tree, a cracked pavement, a friendship dissolved in silence, all equally valid monuments to existence. You notice the humans around you clinging desperately to stories of success, morality, destiny, hope. The sheer stubbornness of believing they are the center of a universe entirely indifferent. You laugh at them, not mockingly, but as if applauding their effort, because everyone deserves recognition for trying so hard in a game without rules. Time is a comedian, cruel and subtle. Each wrinkle, each heartbreak, each failed plan, a signature joke on your forehead. And you, finally, get it. You exist in a suspension where striving is optional, caring is elective, observing becomes the only act of clarity. And even in that suspension, there is rhythm, the rise and fall of absurdity, the ebb and flow of chaos, the occasional flicker of human comedy. You breathe because you can, you move because you are alive, and every trivial action feels like rebellion against the absurdity. Death stops being fearsome. It is the ultimate punchline, the curtain call, the only promise the universe keeps. And even then, it carries a darkly ironic humor. The stars will explode, empires vanish, and yet humans will still scream about traffic, taxes, and likes, oblivious to the vast, indifferent canvas above them. You float through life with a quiet grin, a spectator of the grand improv, appreciating absurdity, chaos, randomness, and your own tiny, ridiculous participation. You stop trying to matter, stop keeping score, stop seeking validation, stop demanding purpose. And in doing so, you are free. You are free to eat when hungry, sleep when tired, love when you feel like it, cry when necessary, and laugh at the universe's cosmic pranks when they hit too close to home. You laugh softly at death, failure, heartbreak, betrayal, and fleeting triumphs, all equally meaningless, all equally human, all equally amusing in their absurdity. And then you realize, finally, the truth. Nothing matters. Everything you thought was important, everything you tried to hold on to, every dream, every plan, every hope, gone. And yet here you are, breathing, alive, watching the absurdity unfold. And somehow that is enough. Enough to smile, enough to exist, enough to join the joke willingly, knowingly, and laugh quietly at the universe's indifferent, perfectly timed punchline. You are no longer a participant in a story that matters. You are an observer of a story that exists, and in that observation, there is strange, ironic joy. You notice the little absurdities that you used to miss.
A pigeon scuttling across a cracked sidewalk as if it owns the city. The way rain hits puddles and patterns that mock your sense of order. The fleeting expression of frustration on a human face that once mirrored your own. You see it all and laugh. A quiet, knowing laugh that carries the weight of lifetimes and the emptiness of infinity. And for the first time, you see yourself as you truly are. Not a hero, not a villain, not the center of anything, but an observer, a witness, a conscious spark in a world that will never notice, and yet that spark is enough. You begin to find joy in the trivialities, the sound of wind in a neglected alley, the taste of stale bread, the absurdity of someone taking themselves too seriously while the universe yawns. You understand that the freedom of nothing is not nihilism, but liberation, the relief that nothing needs justification, nothing needs perfection, nothing requires recognition. You can exist for no reason, laugh for no reason, breathe for no reason, and somehow that is the purest honesty you have ever felt. Every heartbeat is a tiny rebellion, every glance a testament to consciousness in a cosmos that has none. You embrace the quiet absurdity of being alive in a world that never promised fairness, order, or care, and in that embrace there is strange serenity. You can laugh at the tragedies of the past, the anxieties of the present, and the illusions of the future, because they're all just scenery in a play that never had a director. You walk through the city, the streets, the rooms, the spaces that humanity fills with noise and color and desperation, and you see the pattern: chaos, repetition, obsession, despair. And you smile because it is all honest. You finally speak to yourself aloud. All this effort for nothing, all this pain for nothing. And yet here I am, still breathing, still watching, still laughing. And you do laugh, softly, darkly, because in this understanding, there's liberation. You have survived the absurdity, witnessed the meaninglessness, embraced the chaos, and for that, you are free. Nothing matters, not your legacy, not your fears, not your loves, not your regrets. And that is the ultimate truth, the ultimate freedom, the ultimate gift. You walk, you breathe, you notice, you laugh, you live, and you are finally profoundly unshackled. Because nothing matters. And that, at last, is everything. If you want to keep exploring the dark truths of existence, click subscribe and join me on this journey. And if you've made it this far, maybe you're ready for the next truth, the one even darker, the one that asks not why nothing matters, but why life itself was never meant to have meaning. Click here to watch, if you dare.